It's Monday, September 19th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, never share your password with anyone. Ever. Ever, 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 ever.
And anyone.
Let's do this. So this weekend, we went upstate, me and Scott and Emily and a whole bunch of our friends, and we went to a haunted house, which...
Well, it wasn't a haunted house. It was like a haunted playland.
It was a haunted $40 land.
Yeah. That's a lot of money because you can go to a Six Flags for $40 with one of those sale ticket things.
Yeah, well, for $25 more a person, we could have had a Scream Pass and skip the lines.
The only one line was long enough to warrant skipping and not $25 worth.
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't pay $25 to skip lines to Cedar Point. Actually,
how much is a Cedar Point ticket?
When I was a kid, it was like $70 to get in for a whole day.
How much is a Disney World ticket?
I have no idea.
I know you usually buy a 3-day, 3-park pass, but how much is like a 1-day, 1-park pass?
I have no idea, but I'm going to Disney World on Halloween, so I actually got to figure out. I got to buy tickets, so I'll find out.
I'm sure you can afford it, but it's expensive. It's hundreds of dollars when I was there in the 90s. So
I will know, but luckily the hotel is cheap because it's part of a wedding block, so it kind of evens out.
Yeah, well, I mean, anything in Florida is cheap except tickets to Disney World. So.
But the reason I bring this up, and this isn't what the show's about, but we went to this crazy haunted experience with a hayride and a bunch of stuff, the Headless Horseman, and as far as I can tell, everyone who lives like in the entire upstate region was there.
Yeah, it was way crowded, more crowded than I expected. I expected it to be mad lame, but they were like hyping it up. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll pay $40. It seems like a lot of money, and I'll go check this thing out.
Scott messaged me before. He's like, someone's getting I told you so, and it's either going to be them or me.
Right. So the problem is that on the one hand, it wasn't awesome, so I really wanted to give him an I told you so. But on the other hand, the production value was so high, I couldn't make an argument that it was super lame to deliver the I told you so.
I got about $40 worth of entertainment out of the whole thing. Like, I'm not...
Maybe 20.
25, 30. It was good.
Yeah,
it was,
not 40.
But
40 was like, if you said, hey, do you want to do this again next year? We changed everything, but it's the same production level. I'd be like, how much? She'd be like, 40? I'd be like, no. 20? Maybe if it's not cold out.
But if they were like, we've upgraded that giant vagina you had to go through.
Ooh, that was like one of the best parts.
They could have used that to scare people way more than they did.
Well, they can't touch people.
No,
also.
you did. Remember the bee room where they had the little strings that felt like bugs touching your face?
Well, it felt a lot like they were pretty much going for the like throw paint against the wall method. Like, all right, you're not scared of zombies? All right, we got a place with bees. We got a place with spider. We got ghosts. We got clowns.
One of them was just a motel, and as you went, it was basically like the same motel room over and over again, but worse and worse and scarier.
Right.
The toilet just got worse mostly. Like every time you came around a corner, it's like, that toilet is worse than the last toilet I saw.
Well, it's a motel. There's a lot of toilets, right? But it's pretty much like there's something you're scared of, and we're going to have it here.
I mean, even if it's like me and Scott, they're like, okay, for those people, we're just going to have someone hiding in a place they would never see and just literally jump scare them at like the best possible moment.
The giant clown was hiding behind the sign. And I'm just, I'm walking slowly, just checking stuff out. I'm mostly like looking at the elaborate sets they've made.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, these are really elaborate and awesome. Just like inspecting them to like see how cool they are. Trying to go slowly, but they sort of push you along, right? But there's like, they put so much detail into things, you don't want to go slow. You want to like hang out and check, see what's going on. But
like there were skeletons like deeply and elaborately inserted inside of a lot of things.
Like in the motel, there's like, a person in a room and there's like all these pictures on the wall. And
every one of them's got
props
something
all
creepy
stuck
going on.
Right. It's like, I want to, there's like some scary library. I want to look at all the books.
Yep.
But, I'm just looking behind the sign, and this clown is hiding back there, and I think he saw that I was coming to look into his hiding spot.
But the one thing I want to say, this specific place, like they have a hayride part where I guess every year they have like this narrative, like there's a story about the Headless
Horseman. It made
no
fucking sense.
So
why even have it?
That was... Like, you might think this is a weird thing to say about a
It didn't help that the
house.
person on our hayride really wasn't putting in a big effort.
She was giving the desultory, I am the witch hex, and I am smallpox something. Oh no, the Headless Horseman, you will never defeat me.
The thing is, all the other actors who were actually along the way, they seem to be trying harder.
But the overwroughtness of the plot, like, the plot of this haunted hayride was more than, like, 52 episodes of a for-real anime in terms of the amount of stuff.
And how are there? It was like every single possible scary thing. There was a pirate land,
Yup.
and a creepy Western place,
There-
and a creepy colonial place,
But at one
and a
point, like-
Dracula, and a Frankenstein.
Like, there's all these villagers
and
covered in
some
pox marks,
Satans
and they're all
and
being hung. And there's
scary
this wizard
school.
guy, and the guy's like, the Headless Horseman doesn't want these villagers. They're infected with smallpox. And I was like, okay, that's oddly specific. But then smallpox kept coming up. Like, smallpox and some other virus are a big part of that story that I don't understand at all. So,
But the sets are really nice.
yeah, they were. Like, at one point,
They
there's
should
like
just,
this
whoever
ma-
makes those things, I probably does make sets for movies, but they should probably just quit that and make sets for movies. But wait, that place was making $40 a head at least, times a big long line of people, times every night in October. I don't think you need another job if you own that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably costs a lot. You got to pay the land. And,
How much could that land cost? It's upstate New
but
York.
they had to pay. There's a lot of costs involved. Making all those sets was not cheap.
and you can only run this thing for like a month a
right.
year.
You're paying for
basically.
the cops to be there. If it rains, no one's showing up that day.
Also, there were actually a lot of cops there and a lot of security.
Yeah, they were-
like,
I don't
like
know
New
what
York
problems-
MSG level of security.
I don't know what problems they had in the past.
And it
but-
wasn't just that. We went apple picking in the morning. Same deal. They're like, we're gonna search your car, maybe.
Well, that Apple place is super paranoid that people are going to steal apples. And it's like, dude, your apples are more expensive than the apples I get next to my house, which are also upstate New York apples. And they taste just the same.
But like, is there that much autumnal crime in upstate New York that this is a thing?
I don't know.
But-
Maybe when it gets cold, people run out of money. They got to steal they buy holiday presents.
But really, I can't express this enough. Like, you might think Rim is exaggerating about the overwrougentness and complexity of the plot of this haunted hayride. I'd love to read the script, but I think it might end. Like, you would need like R. Scott Bakker would have trouble summarizing this in the body of works he's written to date.
Yeah.
Smallpox came up like 40 times.
I don't know.
So it's Monday. It's not the lounge. It's Tech News Day, and there's a lot of news that we didn't talk about. And one thing I want to talk about it's not new news, but it's a topic many of you haven't thought about. So when I was a young lad, if you wanted to run an email server in the old days, like in the 90s, you could just start an email server and connect it to the internet.
I mean, it was hard. Did you send mail?
yeah, like you had to know computers.
But, I mean, I can't even set up send mail now.
I
'cause
could
I
back then. I can't now.
I can't. I mean, you took the class that taught you that.
Yeah, I did.
I never did. So, I mean, like, I could read documentation on how to do it, and even with that, I wasn't able to do it. With documentation, I was able to set up pretty much every other kind of application out there. A little Apache, a little FTP.
Now, part of that was that
But I
email-
couldn't set up email because it was so fucking complicated.
Email used to be like in the old days. Email is one of these old internet protocols.
Right,
like,
but if I knew what I was doing, I could have theoretically set up an email server and it had a domain and started sending and receiving emails to and from that domain. And I partially succeeded a couple times.
yeah, Scott and I
and then I said, fuck it, let's Google do it.
we had a squirrel mail server for webmail for a while.
Yeah.
That was cool. That never quite worked 100%, but it worked better than the RIT email. I used to telnet.
My RIT emails worked great.
Well, yeah, if you knew how to telnet into the VAX cluster.
Oh, that's right. I always use my cs.rit.edu.
Yeah, the
email.
IT team used, like IT, we also had addresses, but they used a different system. So I used the regular RIT email, which you could either telnet into Gracie, which was this old Unix cluster, or you could telnet into the VAX, which was literally open VMS, like, dear God.
I'm pretty sure they retired those and replaced them with a bunch of Sun machines.
But
or
think about
something.
this, like everyone who got to RIT, like email was not like I knew a lot of people who didn't have email addresses when we got to RIT. Like I don't think like there was a different time in the year 2000.
Yep.
Most kids who got to RIT left behind their email address because it was like something.comcast.net that they couldn't take with them.
Mine was like snet.net when SNET was still a phone company.
I had a Prodigy internet address still at
and
that time.
before
I
that,
think.
there was an AOL one.
Yep. So, yeah. But if you knew what you were doing, you could set up an email server, and if you just connected it to the internet, it worked. A problem with email as a service and a protocol is that it's an old protocol.
Right. The way it was originally designed was like if you couldn't reach the place you were trying to send the email to, you would just send the email to someone else, and then they would try to pass it on.
Like, send it to anyone. Like,
yeah,
who
like,
cares?
Like, I'm trying to send an email to google.com, and I can't find google.com, so I'm going to send the email to whoever I find. I'll send it to, I don't know, rim.com.
And then rim.com will be like...
Rim.com will actually do a best effort to try to get that email over to google.com.
Because remember, old internet protocols, like all the old shit, that was designed to survive a nuclear strike against the United States.
Yep.
So it was designed to just kind of work no matter what. And also, in those days, there really wasn't spam or trolling or shitposting. Like, everyone on the internet was cool. In fact, the year 2000 was sort of like the tipping point where that stopped being true bit by bit. So email had a problem once normal people got access to it and spam appeared and all these other problems, the far skip. Current day, you can still, if you're an IT person, go read the documentation to like send mail or something and make a mail server. Totally fine, connected to the internet, and pretty much no one will ever get any email from you. People hated spam so much that they decided that they would rather miss real email and give up on an open internet than even let one spam through. So the average email service will just block emails from anyone it doesn't trust, and it pretty much only trusts big companies that are already running big email servers. So my Gmail will go out fine, and anyone who already has big email infrastructure that has not had a spam problem happen is fine. No new email system will pretty much ever exist ever for the future of forever.
I mean, you can start a new email system. You just need to have meetings and talk to people who run bigger email
So
systems
this article
to
is
tell them to
about
trust you.
This article is about that actually isn't even true anymore. Like, you pretty much cannot get your mail server to work with any corporate network, or like even if you get a lot of people, even big companies, to trust you, odds are an average person you send an email to won't get your emails.
Maybe. I mean, if you get Google to trust you, you're pretty much set, right?
You might not be able to get Google to trust you.
It's not easy, but it can be done.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can always send your emails through someone else, right? So at work, we send a ton of emails. Not a super ton, but we send a bunch, and they all get through. And the reason that is because you use Amazon SES, where basically I use SMTP to tell Amazon SES to send the email for me, but I also point some DNS records at Amazon SES, and I give it permissions. So I can send an email. I can send an email from or to anyone at our domains.
But now you're dependent on Amazon, which fine.
I mean, there's other services that do the same thing, like SendGrid and Mailchimp has some competing thing. I forget what it's called, Mandrake or something.
But there is another.
There's all kinds of different mail services you can use, either for mailing lists or just mail servers.
You pretty much
just point some DNS records and you can start.
But you pretty much have to use a service that gets identifying information from you, because anything that's more anonymized probably will get blocked for spam reasons.
If you want to be anonymous, why using fucking email?
But that's interesting, because the original protocol was designed so that anyone can send a message to anyone, anywhere in the world, no matter what. And it turns out that humans would pretty much don't actually ever want a service like that ever.
Nope. Why would, why would you?
Yeah. Well, I did. I mean, remember Orkut, the first social network that we used? The first social network? It was great because you could just, it had no controls for spam whatsoever. And it was awesome until the first shitbird got in, and then the entire service was ruined within 24 hours. So, email's dead. Pretty much you have Gmail. You have some other service that lets you send electronic messages, but email, the original protocol, is for all intents and purposes dead. Like, you don't need to know anything about it.
Well, you still use it.
Well, yeah, but you use it the same way you use old roads. Like, the infrastructure, the political system that created the interstates is dead, yet the interstates remain. You got any news?
Yeah, so
Any
Lenovo,
commentary?
who you should never buy a computer from ever again.
Ever again.
Because you can't trust them. But they're making something that I always questioned, like, why hasn't anyone made this? They're making basically a giant table computer. It's like a 20-something inch, 27-inch, so really not that big.
Oh, it looks like it's about the same size as the new Nexus 5X. Hey-o!
It's $1,600, and it's a computer. It's just big, and it's also a coffee table, basically. That's a thing that I kind of wanted at some point in my life.
I've always wanted
not
that.
Not now, but it's taken this long for someone to make something so obvious.
I mean,
I guess you could have always just taken a television and just laid it flat and put a computer under it, but it wouldn't have a touchscreen.
Well, also, most televisions don't have a great viewing angle unless you pay a lot of money.
Right, and Microsoft tried to make the original Microsoft Surface, not the current one, but the original one, which was like a projector onto the bottom of a table, and the people were playing D&D with it, and then they stopped using it.
Yep.
Except for I think one hotel has one in their lobby somewhere.
The PAX East main hotel had it down there. It might not still be there.
Yeah, as a demo kiosk thing, right? But it's hey, that's actually a thing you could have in your house, and it's why the hell not? I guess it's really not that much better than, say, you have an iPad in your lap and you watch TV versus having your coffee table be an iPad and watch.
But I wouldn't want to watch TV on it because I got to look down.
No. You use it to say choose channels or
iPad still.
But it's like holding an iPad for that is just better, or holding the Wii U tablet for that is just better.
To me, still, the only use case for this kind of
board
thing
game
is it's not useful for generic computing. The apps that use it need to be designed for a shared screen where people are sitting.
But it's like they're talking about using it for photo editing.
That's
it's
stupid.
Why? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but there a long time ago when 3D mice started appearing and all these haptic interfaces and touchscreens started appearing. It became apparent immediately that for most things you use a computer for, a mouse or trackball and a keyboard is still the best interface with a screen in front of your face.
One thing it seems they did get right with this is that it is battery powered and it can work with battery for a few hours, and it has a little stand so you can kick it up.
Nope.
So you could take this with you, say camping, and play a little digital board game in the woods with it.
The problem is most digital board games aren't designed for this kind of display.
Yeah, no kidding. But I'm saying you just buy one of these, erase it so Lenovo doesn't mess with you, and don't do anything with it except make board games for it and play them.
But that's it. It's a catch-22.
But you can just use an iPad for that, and you don't want to give Lenovo money, so fuck them. But please, someone else make this, or someone make a little stand for you to put an iPad on.
This is useless unless it basically got the Nintendo treatment. And
maybe I'll make a little stand for the iPad Pro, and then you can play board games.
But it needs first-party apps.
Hiroshima Hex.
Yeah, but I'm saying it would be a
There's
console.
a ton of first-party apps. You know how many board games there are for iPad?
Yeah, and most of them really are still not designed for a bunch of people sitting around a big table
Actually,
playing.
a lot of them are.
But the interface is not great.
As long as you look away when it's someone's hand for intimidation.
Yeah, with a giant table, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
It's like when it's not your turn, just look away.
That's not happening. I'm not looking away.
Anyway.
But yeah, it's just a catch-22. You would need first-party software to make this good, and it can't be productivity software because that's stupid on this form factor. No one's going to make those games because not everyone owns one of these.
I don't know why they're making this. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Everyone else made it, and it's there's 5 people who want this, and you went ahead and made it. Why?
So, yeah. But it doesn't matter because it's Lenovo.
Yeah.
Anyway, things of the day. So I follow this blog. It's called War is Boring, and it's a pretty good blog about war stuff, like historical war stuff, current war stuff. It's pretty well informed, but this particular article is very interesting. It talks about a very specific case during World War II where the Allies were trying to assist our own POWs stuck in Germany in escaping from BOW camps and rejoining the fight. And they did this primarily by hiding information.
I thought it was shovels.
No, hiding information. Shovels and all that nonsense were not that useful. Like that you can get on your own. People needed maps, compasses, that kind of shit.
Oh, because once you escape, you don't know where the fuck to go.
Exactly. I mean, so say I took you,
You
Scott.
didn't have your GPS?
So Scott, let's say I took you and me, get blindfolded and dropped off somewhere in upstate New York. How do we find our way home without asking someone? That's the problem they were facing.
As soon as I hit a road, I can see the signs on it.
Maybe, but okay, so you see a town, Bumblefuck, New York. Where's that? It's not a town you recognize.
I mean, no matter where I am, I know New York, right? Because I studied it before I got here.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll just pick one direction and walk in that direction.
Yep.
And I'll know that, let's say I head north.
Yep.
I'm either going to hit Canada, a river that I know. I find north by, the space, right? And the sun and shit. I-90. Or, it's like I'm going to find one of these things just by continuing north. And then once I find one of those things, I'm set.
All right, you're in a town called Bernards, and you don't know where that is.
I'll just walk east, and
All
I
right, you're
know
gonna
I'm
walk
either
east?
going to find
All right, so we'll
I'm either
see.
going to find Elmira, Coxsackie,
All right.
the Hudson River,
So I'm looking. If you keep
Connecticut,
walking, if you keep walking
or
east,
Vermont.
you immediately hit a river that is itself called the Passaic River, but that river name exists in a lot of places around America.
But I know that I'm in New York.
All right, so you're or New Jersey.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so
I'm getting closer.
they hid maps and things in places.
Listen,
mostly
being
using board
lost
games.
being lost and alive is better than hanging out with Nazis and being alive.
Nah, because if you escape from POW camp and they catch you and they know you as the guy who escaped once already, I suspect it's not as pleasant as it was the first time.
I mean, by the time
around.
I escaped, aren't I just like some American who's lost in the woods?
I don't think any American lost in the woods in Germany in World War II was just sent on his way.
Maybe I just got separated from all my dudes. They all died.
But totally, they modified Monopoly boards and hid all the shit in board games. And this is kind of a
Why
really...
did the Nazis let board games through? And why didn't they check them for stuff?
This is what... that's what this story is.
Okay.
It's really fascinating.
All
It's
right.
my thing of the day. It's an article that I recommend you all read.
And I hope, were we checking the board games? I mean, if they were sending over some settlers or whatever?
This only talks about our plan to let our POWs out.
Yes, hide, chisel, and sheep.
So one thing they did is, under the Monopoly money, it was just real fucking money.
Oh,
Like, that's one of the things they did, and it totally worked.
Such a great hiding place.
It totally worked. They didn't check that thoroughly.
Why are they not checking so thoroughly?
Read the article and you'll see.
Such lame checking. Oh my god, the TSA is better than that.
Anyway.
I mean, the TSA will even find your 3 ounces of lotions. All right, so thing of the day. So you ever want to make a video of some computer usage, right? For like tutorial purposes, like you want to show someone something you did on your computer. But the thing you're showing them, is just in a terminal. So it's almost like, why would I deliver to you this video of my terminal in like MPEG form? That's kind of like inefficient, and it kind of sucks because like even if you see the video, you're like constantly pausing it, and you can't stop and reread things, and you definitely can't copy and paste out of the MPEG my text, which would be super helpful. So this is a website called Cinema or ASCII. It's a combination of the word ASCII and cinema. It's ASCII cinema, but the cinema and the ASCII are touching.
Oh, they give you a pronunciation guide. It's Askinema.
Go fuck yourself. Anyway.
That's the canonical machinima, GIF.
Yeah, you got any GIFs over there? And this website has tools which make it very, very easy to record and upload and display and share videos of things you did in your terminal that are very easy to watch and copy and paste from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to make some tutorials, teach people how to do things in terminals, or maybe just show coworkers or, demo products that have command line interfaces or anything like that, this is an awesome thing to use. So do that.
Yeah.
And also make MPEG-4 for backup in case something happens to this website.
In the meta moment, the book club book was The Wheel of Time. We're done with The Wheel of Time, book 1, and we did an episode on it. We're burning through book 5.
I'm in the early pages of book 5, like 10%, like chapter 3 or 4.
So if you were wondering if you should read the first book of The Wheel of Time to then listen to our book club episode on the first book of The Wheel of Time, all I'll say is we somehow kept reading. We're kind of burning through these books.
I mean, it's exactly what we always said every time we mentioned it. It's genero fantasy. But it's general fantasy and you're nerds. You like that, right? Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? You care about world building? There's a lot of that in there.
It's nothing but nerd fantasy, so just read it because you're a nerd. And
yep.
That's it.
And then you'll know why I keep saying that Matt needs to shut the fuck up.
Or read something else that has some sort of, literary merit.
Otherwise, we have no big conventions until MagFest, which you should go to. Oh, but I think it's sold out of hotel rooms. So if you... Many people we know were unable to get hotel rooms because they did not listen to us.
We told you so. We told you so.
With every convention.
So you had been told by us and you did not listen.
Yep.
We were right again.
And I'll tell you this. I'll make a new prediction. Next year, it's going to be as hard as PAX fucking East to get a hotel for MagFest. Mark my words. Like, even if you listen to us, you might not get one next year. Mm-hmm. That's my prediction.
Just, you're going to have to, get on top of those internets.
Yeah, do some Airbnb nonsense. Like, you got to get an angle.
There is one secret technique to getting a hotel room for MagFest. That technique is boat. It's National Harbor. It literally is on the water. You could pay some money to dock a boat there.
MagFest website has directions like how are you getting here? And one of the options is boat. If you click on it, they totally tell you how to do that.
If you get a boat somewhere, you don't have to worry about hotel as long as there's a bed on that boat. And that the boat is not too big. Like a cruise ship, probably too big.
Nope. So, yeah. Otherwise, our Patreon will be starting up at some point in the nearing future. I got some other work I got to finish first, but if you ever Wanted to hear those pre-release episodes of Geek Nights from the early days of 2005.
Because we have nothing else of value or interest to give away to people who give us money.
As we said before, we sang our own theme song in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we sang a song for you at the opening of every episode. I think maybe 20 people in the world have ever heard those episodes.
Mm.
So if the 1,000, 14, however many crazy episodes we've done of Geek Nights over the years are not enough, if you donate to our Patreon, I'm going to trickle out a bunch of episodes that have never been on the internet before.
Mm. All right. So Rim wanted to do an episode on this. I think we've talked about this before many, many times.
I think we talk about it a lot in general in our lives, mostly Scott.
But it keeps coming up, especially in the tech news all the time. And I'm like, man, we remind people about backups. By the way, back up everything all the time, always.
Yeah, and if you're lazy, I tweeted a little bit about this.
Back your shit up.
If you have a NAS, just a NAS, that's not a backup. That's redundancy.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about backing stuff up before enough. But
what I do
we're just
now,
reminding you because it's never bad to remind you. But something we've talked about a lot, but I think could also always bear repeating, and I don't think 100% we've done an episode on, but even if we had, that's okay.
And I know a lot of you are doing this.
I know so many people doing this, and they always tell me, whenever I tell them not to, is never share your password to anything with anyone ever under any circumstances to any person. It doesn't matter.
But Rim and Scott, I hear you thinking already.
Yeah, so but Rim and Scott, number one. I trust this person. They're like my wife or my husband or my mom or this person who's so incredibly close to me.
Bosco.
Right. That I trust them with everything else in my life, even my credit card, my ATM card, and my PIN number. Why did you tell them your PIN number?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Why'd you tell them your PIN number?
Emily, do you know any Rim's passwords? No, she
Emily
said no.
knows one of my passwords temporarily because it's a bullshit password that was used for a specific purpose and is going away. Actually,
right there you go.
One of the but Rim and Scott's is there might be a system that you interact with that does not have multiple account capabilities. Old shit. One.
Right, if you have a Windows computer, you can just make user accounts for all the different people that are going to use it.
In the old days,
and now no one needs to tell anyone the other person's passwords because you log in as you.
But in the old days, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, you had a Windows 3.1 computer, didn't even have a password. But maybe you had a Windows 95 computer. Okay, so now you have a password to log in or unlock a Windows 95 computer, but there's only one. It's not
That's why in the 90s, every kid who knew how to use the internet knew every website their parents ever visited, but not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. So when you have a situation like that, you basically sort of have to follow the same rule. Don't tell anyone your password, but the your is multiple people, and you literally just don't tell anyone else who's not one of the yous.
Yeah, it's got to be a need-to-know basis.
If a friend comes over and needs to use that Windows 3.1 computer, you unlock it for him.
Yep.
You don't tell him what it is.
And of course, the right answer is that system, whatever it is deprecated. You should assume that you're going to replace it when feasible. Now, you might not be able to quickly because it's a thing that doesn't really exist anymore, but you should at least bear it in the back of your mind. Keep an eye out for a way to replace that thing with something that has user accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Also, number two, but Rim and Scott, this thing doesn't have shared accounts or doesn't have account systems. You're probably wrong. A lot of things have ways to have multiple users that you don't realize.
Yep.
Like Twitter. If you have a corporate Twitter account, you should set up TweetDeck and then use other Twitter accounts for everyone to individually manage the group or the company Twitter. Mm-hmm. Everyone in your company shouldn't all know the password to the Twitter account and log into it directly.
No.
But the reason I brought this up as a thing is that the most recent instance where this has come up is a problem you might not have thought about. I'm going to read the summary from the Slashdot article that will tell you where we're going with this.
Well, I do want to talk about one more thing.
Oh, you got one more?
Yeah, is that you'll see on the news a lot, or people a lot will say, my account was hacked. My account was compromised. Account stolen. I lost my Warcraft account, or someone stole my, right? And you know what? 99.99% of the time, they're using the word hacked, compromised, whatever. The truth is, there's no way to figure out someone's Facebook password and steal their account. Facebook is so freaking secure. It's
they told that password to someone.
Yeah, somebody guessed the password because it was really shitty. Or they told it to someone. 99.999% of the time, it was
I'd say
guessed.
just 99%. The other 1% is you installed malware.
That's also possible. But that's based, it's still, you told the password to someone, they guessed your password, or they had a malware that keylogged you and got your password.
Or you used
They didn't hack into Facebook, right? And, it's not like I can go onto Facebook and pick an arbitrary person and log in as them somehow by hacking. That's not a thing you can do with any, easy method that anyone, like maybe the NSA can do it, but even then
modern
it would be difficult for them. Someone who worked at Facebook can do it as an inside job.
So there's a court case. This is a
So
summary.
if you think it doesn't happen,
this is a summary
happens.
on Slashdot by Schwitt1
Schwitt1?
of an article on the Washington Post.
Such a trustworthy source, Schwitt1.
Yep.
On Slashdot. Whoa, this is like, whoa.
But as I read this out loud, you'll start to realize where I'm going with this. Quote, and I'm giving proper attribution here. On Monday, the Ninth Circuit Court in the United States
the best court.
will hear arguments in United States versus NoSol on an interesting legal question.
Who the hell is NoSol?
About to find out.
Okay.
If a person shares access to a computer account with someone else, under what circumstances can the second person engage in unauthorized access under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act?
I don't know what that act says, except that it's a bullshit act.
The case
But I can tell you what it should say.
The case centers around the difference between having access to something and having permission to use it. In other words, if you give somebody a desktop password to your computer so they can watch Netflix, which is already logged in, but they take advantage of that to read all your email, how does the law look at that? What happens if they come back later, log in again without your immediate explicit permission, but only watch Netflix, which you gave them permission for before? What happens if you give them your Netflix password so they can watch it at your house, but not the desktop password? They go home and use that on their desktop to watch Netflix at their house. Eugene Volko has a paper coming articulating, quote, the legal interpretations of computer trespass, and the gist of all this is
the current law is probably not addressing any of these issues, and they're probably all fucked up.
you open yourself up. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. You open yourself up, in my non-lawyer opinion, to insane liability that no one can really explain to you because it's not well understood yet if you ever give anyone your password. I mean, if I loan Scott my car and he's drunk and he kills someone with it,
The law covers that.
yeah, they're like the law will
This has
deal with
happened
that.
before.
But also don't loan your car to someone that you see is visibly intoxicated or you're
Right.
fucked.
But in the early days of drunk driving law, the law really didn't cover that very well.
So if I loan my password to Joey Jojo Shabadoo, and then Joey Jojo Shabadoo gives material support to Daesh terrorists using my account,
You
and-
also gave material support,
Yeah.
didn't you?
could I get in trouble? Maybe. You don't know.
So don't even risk that shit.
And even if you think and say someone else does something legal, but against the terms of service of a website by accident, even if you gave them that permission, who's responsible? How much trouble could you get in? No one knows. And in fact, it's even worse because the courts are fucking this up and hurting people already. So if you give a password to anything, to anyone, no one knows how much trouble you or that anyone could get into.
Yeah, people think it's not just, right, things like that. Let's say, you live with, your friend and you don't have a lot of money and you like to play on a Hearthstone.
Yep.
So you don't want to you don't really want to play against each other. So you don't have, two accounts.
My brother and I did that. There's an MMO, The Realm. We actually just used the same account and we each made two of the characters.
Right. And that way you save a lot of money. You buy a card. Well, now you both have the card because you're sharing the same account.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, rather than like, oh, I have Dr. Boom and you don't. Ha ha ha. Right. You're all just using the same account. You're all, you can't play against each other, but that's fine. And you're all good. And you're just sharing the BattleNet login. Okay. So you're sharing this BattleNet login. And then your friend maybe gets drunk or maybe he's a jerk or who knows, goes and just starts harassing some people on the Hearthstone. Like he sends a friend request and then he tells the person like, fuck you, fuck. And then that person reports him and now your account gets banned. And oops, why did you share an account with somebody?
Yep.
Right? And also you think of that, you're sort of like trying to, all these situations, it's like, you're really just trying to steal Hearthstone cards effectively. The same way as sharing Netflix passwords. It's like, you're trying to avoid paying for Netflix twice. You're trying to avoid paying for Hearthstone cards twice. You're trying to avoid paying for things you're supposed to be paying for. So you kind of deserve, right? You shouldn't be doing that.
Of course, part of the reason this has come up lately is that a lot of services like Netflix and everything, they knew you were sharing passwords forever. They always knew that.
Yeah.
And as time's gone on, they're using that information to monetize their platforms better. So stay tuned for how they use that information in the future. Because guess what? You gave it to them. They know, oh, these are the 5 IP addresses that Joey Jojo logs in from all the time, based on those infinite magic cookies that we know about from privacy tracking stuff. We now know who all of Joey Jojo's friends are. Interesting. And we got that information basically legally because he logged in. Like, he already signed
Your
our terms of
computer
service.
told us this information with software that you put on the computer and said, yes,
Yeah.
software, do this. And it did it.
Now, there's also a technological reason. I mean, if you're a corporate user, like, obviously you know the reasons for this. Like, you want everyone to have their own accounts, so when someone fucks up or something, then, like, there's an audit trail, and you can go to the police or the regulator or the auditor and be like, Rim logged into the system at 4:51:21 at 8 milliseconds and made this change, and this other thing happened later. Or shell history. If you all share the same shell, bunch of stuff is in the history now. Usually I like to have a consistent shell, as in if I hit up when I log into my system, whatever's there is whatever I did last.
Imagine if someone else did a bunch of stuff and you press up and you're like, what's this?
Yeah, what's all this business? Now, what if my history's gone? What if I ran a command and I forgot and I needed to find it, but he ran my history out?
I got these files in my documents folder. Someone moved them on me.
Yeah.
No.
And those things can happen by accident. So even if you trust someone 100%, it's still good for you each to have separate accounts. And it doesn't matter that someone can still get material access. Like, for example, Emily and I have separate accounts on our NAS. I'm the administrator. I could just go get those files.
Also, you have physical access to the NAS. There's a
Yeah.
way to probably stick a pin in it to reset it, or just you can just pull it out of the wall, plug it into your own computer, and do anything to it. So even though Emily's not the administrator, or maybe she is, I don't know. I could come and I could grab the NAS, take it home with me, and get all the files. Nothing you can do about it.
Scott and I both use our frontrowcrew.com email addresses, like a Gmail thing, and a bunch of our friends use it too. Scott is the administrator of that. Scott could go get my emails.
I could just reset Rim's email password, log in his RAM, and read all his email.
But, I mean, I trust him, but the difference is if we use one Gmail account with the same password, that is a way different situation from legal, ethical, and auditing and technological concerns than it is if I have my account, Scott has his account. Separately, there's the role of the administrator that happens to be fulfilled by Scott that has other meta capabilities. It's not necessarily that he can get access.
Right. A lot of these legal questions are totally different, right? If we are sharing a password and I send an email, then the legal question is a lot different than, oh, you're the administrator and you logged into Rim's account and sent an email by resetting his password without asking him.
Yup, exactly.
It's totally different.
It protects you and it protects the people around you to have well-defined roles of interaction in electronic systems, independent of the material security underlying those systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the entire point of this episode.
Also, when a password it has to be remembered by more people,
It's going to be a shittier password.
it generally has to be shittier or easier to guess because something that more people can memorize. If there's something that's unique to you, it's usually easier for you to memorize it. Or you can use something like a password card or whatever, or some sort of other passwordy system.
Like, I'll be honest, there are a tiny number of shared passwords Scott and I have for various reasons.
And it is one.
At this tiny number, there is one.
One.
It's not the best password, but we'll both remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone else in the world will ever know that password. I feel like
If
at some
someone
point,
gets the password, big deal.
if someone, at this point, that password doesn't actually have access to much anymore. You know what you could have done with that password? You could have hacked our wireless router. If you got
it's not even
physical
something we both
access.
need access to. I could just change it on you and it wouldn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so think of it that way. I mean, a lot of regulation, like in the finance world and in business, around like who has access to what. It's not about material access. Like when I worked at a broker dealer, I could give myself root credentials on the production trading systems. I could know anything. I could do select queries against the database. I could just get raw access to the database's underlying files. But I had to log in through an audited system so people knew when and how I was accessing the system. So if I log in through the front end, I only get access to the data that my role as whatever it is I'm doing is supposed to get access to. Independently, I have a role as administrator where I have more access, but those two levels of access are controlled separately, and the regulation is around that. A lot of regulations are around certain kinds of roles cannot be shared by the same person. So if I were a trader, I could not also be an administrator.
Trader.
If I was a traitor, I probably shouldn't have access to anything. So think about that the next time your Facebook friend from out of town crashing on your couch wants to log into your HTPC and then your Amazon account to watch Netflix.
Right, another big issue is that even if you're just not sharing your passwords with anyone, it's still having just a password is a problem these days. You really need two-factor authentication to be safe.
A lot of things support. Google just supports it. Gmail just supports it.
Almost everything you use probably supports two-factor authentication, right? Even, Yahoo's doing something, and almost everything I use, like Tumblr even, will like send you a text with a number that you can use every time you log in.
Trivial to set up. At least use it for your email. Because
Right.
as we've talked about, if someone compromises your email, they can reset everything you've got. And
Actually, if you have
two
two-factor authentication, they might not be able to.
True.
Because they might need to like generate a code or have the piece of paper with codes on it, the backup codes.
Yeah.
To reset the password on something.
And I think we've done shows on two-factor. I mean, I could tell you the current two-factor number for my email account. You would have 6 seconds to crack my actual password.
Right. But yeah, two-factor authentication is like essential for anything you care about being secure. So if anything you have, even though it's a pain in the ass, it's totally worth it to enable two-factor authentication. So it's not just something you know, a password. It's something you have and something you know, like a phone or a little USB stick or something. On anything you can, just because why not? It's free. It's not like they charge you for this. And you're never going to get screwed over if you do it. But if you want to have multiple people sharing, you can't be doing two-factor because only one person can have the thing you have.
Yeah, it's an intrinsic token. You can't copy that token.
Yeah, it's a physical thing. It's like, you can copy a key to a house and they both have keys.
You can't copy an RSA dongle.
Right. So
Well, maybe, barring again, like that show we did on security, yes, NSA spy nonsense might be able to get around this
who
stuff.
knows? But yeah, there's one anywhere, period. That's it. So you either have it or you don't. So if you want two-factor authentication, you can't share a password with someone. So if you're sharing passwords and doing the thing we tell you not to do, then you're going to not enable two-factor because you don't want to ruin your password sharing system. So don't share the password in the first place and enable the two-factor, and you're all set.
Yep. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.